Welcome to Slayerfest 98. I'm Ian Carlos Crawford, and joining me, he played gentleman number 3 in Hush.
My name is Don Lewis, and I was gentleman number 3. I swear.
Hello, Don. It is so nice to meet you. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. Tell me, what was it like doing this? What's like a memory that sticks out to you from doing this episode?
Well, the obvious memory is there was a massive amount of makeup. We would come in early in the morning, and we would just be in the chair for hours. And you would have the prosthetics that were glued on. You had hands that were glued on. Um, there is somewhere. Uh, One of my friends took a tape of when they were putting the makeup on me, and when I watched it, the face going over, the teeth being put in, it was a very complicated, and it was the end result was so wonderful,
Yeah.
and being on the show was great. I mean, not the least of which is my sister is a horrible fan and was just thrilled to death that her little brother was on Hush, and I even got a nod on the DVD because I had lovely hands. Yes, Joss Whedon loved my hands.
I
Yes,
love
little
that.
things right here. It's like, um, but and then the excitement of being on the set, you know, seeing Buffy, the whole. Um, it was an extremely enjoyable. It was difficult at times because of technical things, but I had a great time.
How did you like stumble across the script? Like, when did it come across to you before you like auditioned, or did you not have to audition since it was a specific role?
I auditioned, I'm almost positive. I have to honestly say it came through my agent, and I I did a fair amount of in the 80s and 90s. If you saw mimes or the bodysuit people, there's an excellent chance you saw me because I did a massive amount of mime work, mostly mimes getting thrown out. I am the only person ever thrown out of the bar in Cheers. Is a mime was literally thrown out of the bar. That's what I made my money as, and people said, "Wow, here's somebody we can abuse." Um, I can't even really remember the audition because there's so many and they're all so different and all the same.
What was the first time getting that makeup on? You said your friend took a video. How long was that? Like, how many hours was that for the makeup?
I want to say 5 hours, but I hope I'm lying. Um, it was a long time, and part of the problem is that it's a fair amount of the things I've done has required strange and weird makeup. I was a 265-pound kung fu kangaroo once. Um, I have no pride. Um, so it was like 4 or 5 hours. It was quite, particularly in the beginning. Once they had the pieces made, the makeup crew, I wish I could remember their name. I wish I could grab that video immediately because they were wonderful.
Yeah.
They were just wonderful. Um,
A lot of the
Everyone
interviews
was
I've had,
wonderful on the
people
set.
people have been complimenting the makeup artists. A lot of these interviews.
Mwah.
Yeah.
They got many karma points. It can be very difficult and very onerous to put on makeup like that, and so it's really nice to have someone who not just knows what they're doing, but is able to make it comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess though you were kind of used to it though, right? Sitting in makeup chairs for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it probably wasn't that.
The worst is when they put you in a full bodysuit and they just cover your whole body with plaster of Paris and you sit and breathe through a straw.
Ooh.
This was nothing. Uh, it was. it was tedious, and hardest part was I think taking it off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I
I took a lot of it home.
Oh, you did. Is there
Little
anything did you
scraps.
Oh, did you keep some?
Oh no. No, 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 no. I wouldn't even have tried.
Fair. Fair.
Yeah, this is unless it was a prop that fell and I found it. Okay.
That's fair.
Then I would have taking home a piece of foam. I've taken home from marionettes and such. I took home prosthetic as the little hands they make for you make marionettes. I took those home, and now they're just you know. But I can tell people that hand went to a puppet.
I listen, one of my prized possessions is so silly. It's a swatch of the season 7 costume designer for Buffy who designed her whole outfit. He sent me like a sample swatch of from her jacket she wears in the last episode. I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." Even though like you said, it's just like kind of nothing, but I think it's cool to have it like on my shelf.
I have a number of things like that. For instance, the very first motion capture film. Um, Good mind, bad speaking. The very first motion capture film, just absolutely horrible. But it was the first. It was called Beyond the Veil of Mist. And I kept one of the little reflecting balls.
Okay.
And they put balls all over you to capture movements in this particular type of thing. And it's a mnemonic, something you can hold, and it gives you a memory.
Right,
And
yeah.
everyone else will look at you like you're friggin' crazy.
No, but I agree. I like having those little memories, even if it's just like something that's cool to you and no one else, everyone else would be like, well, that's trash. It's like nice. Yeah.
But when you hold it, you find a treasure.
Yeah. It's like you can just like look at it and like put it in your hand and be like, this is nice. It's like a nice memory. Yeah. No, I'm
This
very
is
much the same.
I have encapsulated in this object a moment in my life which I just love.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah.
If I
um,
could have gotten away with the teeth, that would have been great.
you know, the late Camden Toy, I had him on 2, 3 years ago, I think. And he said he thinks he thought he got the part just because of his smile, because he said he didn't actually have like prosthetic teeth, right?
He'd done other things.
Yeah.
He'd done other things for them, so they knew him. They knew the quality of his work, and those were his teeth.
He said that like they just put stuff on his instead of like a
Oh yeah, no, no,
mouthpiece.
that's yeah. They had an applique like a denture type of
Yeah, yeah.
thing, but I would have I'd love to have taken that, had it fall in my bag. Um, yeah, I actually think this is a memory. I'm not sure it's right. It was either Doug or him that never relaxed their face. It's like they kept the thing going. It's like I was smiling was the thing, and so I relaxed my face. But it seems to me that he was one of the people that like kept it up the whole time,
Hmm.
and maybe that was his face, but and that's again that's a memory way. It's
Yeah.
like I'm an old man now.
What was like do you remember any of the like scenes that you're specifically, I mean, you said you rewatched the episode. Was there anything that like brought back that you were like, "Oh shit, I didn't remember that," or anything like that like watching?
Uh, Fair amount of blood on hands and such. Camden did the box. Um,
Okay.
Doug cut out the first heart, I know for sure. I threatened somebody with a knife. The little trays that we were on that became our floating, that was kind of cool. I like that
All right.
because I was curious how that would go. That's the sort of thing I remember really. Floating in, holding our little bags. You go past the window, you have to smile, that sort of thing. Um, there was there were bits. it wasn't a continuous flow in a sense, as shows like that are.
Yeah.
So, in the sense of a look or something, no, I couldn't tell you. But a lot of blood, and we smiled a lot.
I like that you remembered who did what. Like you remembered, oh, Doug did this part. Oh, like Cam did this part.
Well, because they were the two majors, okay, and I was after them, and is his name Brandon? I can't think of the fourth person's name because I'm a horrible person.
Was it Charlie
Um,
Brumley?
yes, that
That's
was
the other
it.
person. Yes, that's the
Brumley.
other person I
Yeah.
have reached out to. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Charlie. Yes, of course. What a friend he was. Um, and those are the first four. I would imagine that Doug and I were in the middle, waved to each other goodbye, and I mean, little tiny things like that. I wanted so bad to be wired up and float above the street, and the stunt guys got to do this.
Oh.
Stunt hush got to do that. We were very jealous. And we got our little platform, so that
So wait, is it when they're in the street, those are stunt performers, those aren't like you
the
guys?
ones that are being hung on the wires, oh,
Yeah.
they're part of the Hush crew, but you'll see that they're background.
Uh,
There's two kind of background Hush puppies, and that was them. And but they got to float in that scene where um, the gruesome ghouls were werewolfing down the street or Igoring down the street. Then they had the floating gentleman. Rest of us were on our little platforms, and I actually really liked the scene where they had our feet float in.
yeah, it looks cool.
Um, yeah, yes, I'm so impressed. Just getting so busy patting myself on the back.
That I'm here to pat you on the back as well. Do not worry. Because I was gonna say, even 25 years later, I do think the episode holds up as like a really good episode of like TV and TV horror kind of.
I think it holds up, but part of that's I'm absolutely prejudiced.
Fair.
It's like I've done some pretty horrible things that I like something I did in it. But the movie in itself was just, I mean, I did a movie about a movie, basically, which is this thing, Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo, which was exactly the same as the first Breaking,
Okay.
just different bits. But for what I had, I liked what I did. I wouldn't recommend, um, actually, I should recommend it because I still get a little bit of residuals. Great movie, go out and get it. Um, Things like that. Team America. I remember watching Paris burn, you know, and I think we even killed a mime on there. I was working a mime on the street when the car went by. So it's, you know, you like things you do, and most of the time, if it's something, a lot of the mime things I did on TV, I can't watch
Mm.
because it's just. The thing is it's a horrible mime. I love all you bad mimes. You made me a lot of friggin' money. Um,
So I'm not sure which one exactly. Do you share a scene with any of the actors, or are you one of the gentlemen that doesn't share a scene with any of the
oh,
actors?
I'm Sherrison. I'm the third guy in there. I have a threatening with a knife. I uh, look at the hands. Um,
I'm gonna
the
have to rewatch now that I've seen your hands. I'm gonna look for your
Yeah,
hands.
yeah, really. Oh yeah, really. No, they've gone to they've gone away. Um, So in that sense, there's pieces of me everywhere.
Okay.
You see a face cut, see me going by a window. Um, you see a lot of times you see just body parts.
Okay.
You see a quick shot. Like I said, I threatened someone with a knife. Doug, I remember he definitely cut out the first heart
Okay.
because it was first time we saw it done. Um, it is so cut together. We did, who put the bag down? I had a bag, so I know I put it down. I had a knife. I know I used it. Wow, that sounds really bad. But,
Are you one of
but
the ones that stabs Buffy at the end with the knife when they're
no,
fighting? Oh,
no,
okay.
that would be Camden or
Okay. Okay.
that was they had. I was third position, Hush. I did bits, and if I went through, I could probably say, oh, but
Yeah, yeah.
I did not have a long scene
Okay.
that I could say that I did a fabulous acting job. Um, well, the idea is that again, just movement is mine,
Yeah.
and in that sense, that's what the gentlemen were. Is they were mines.
Yeah.
I hate to embarrass anybody, but your monsters are all mines.
Yeah.
I know who the bug was in Star Troopers. Um, the big giant bug, same guy who played Puff and Stuff. Um,
Really?
I'm not kidding.
I love that.
Not kidding. Yes, I know. I'm a font of useless information.
um, when did you realize that this was like a huge episode of the show? Was it kind of right away? The reception was good, or
I never watched them.
oh,
I
really?
didn't find out. No, no, because then it's like you either get attached or you sit there and you say, "Why didn't I?" You know.
That's fair.
So the first time that I knew was when my sister got all excited and uh, hated on me for not telling her.
Oh, you didn't tell her?
Nah, I don't know what you see. Nah, because it's like I mean, it was worth telling people to look at because it was the whole thing was, and I did have parts that um, but you don't know
That's
until um, um, I well, like for instance, I did a bullwhip stunt for this show, and because I did the bullwhip stunt, I hit the target and everything, but I do this when I do when I hit, and so they go, "Oh, that looks really friggin' weird." So you never saw that. No one ever saw it,
yeah.
So a few people that I did tell, they went, "I heard the noise. I didn't see shit." So yeah, you don't know
That
until
that's fair. I've had a few writing jobs where like I'm like, meh, I don't need to tell people I'm writing this because like it's like I'm just doing it for because this is a job and this is the money I'm making. So I do get that.
prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Yeah, yeah. A couple of the actors I've been hearing mixed things about whether it was harder or easier, and I'm sure you have a very different take on this, but some of them have said it was really harder to be silent. James Marster said he had a couple of takes where he would like be like, "Oh fuck," because he accidentally made a noise or something. Was it more you were used to just not having to have any lines or like say anything, or was that difficult?
It's no, I mean, in that sense, I mean, again, bodysuits are nothing but that.
Yeah,
You don't get to talk. And so all of your work is, in a sense, a gentleman. And in fact, this is one of our fights with SAG when we originally got credit as, quote, mimes as in bodysuits, was because a makeup like that is a bodysuit of sorts. We're wearing makeup. We are certainly not portraying ourselves or doing walls and ropes and things, but we're still doing. People have the fight about pantomime and mime, but we're not talking. That's the big thing. Our
yeah,
reactors are not. And when you get right to it, uh, from Quasimodo, uh, when that was done in silent films, to Silver Surfer, they're all bodysuits.
mm,
And now that they have more, motion capture, I mean, Look at that. You're basically, no, it wasn't a problem for us as much. Actually, at all.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
instead of people, because another thing is that you will find that mimes are probably the most loquacious people you can talk to. After you've been trained to be quiet for so long, you just get off stage and you just talk like a mother.
I mean, you seem so quiet though, Don.
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, okay, so
That's
you
what
didn't.
everyone says.
I gotta tell everyone, Don was very. You were very nice about doing this from the start, from our first conversation, and I do appreciate that.
Well, I do love the show. Now I'm allowed to love it.
Fair,
and
fair.
and and I can also love other things I've done that I hadn't let myself look, and I've also been able to hate on myself for a number of things I've done. Don't see beyond the veil of mist. Um, but anyway, so I
So
was pleased to do this. It's nice to have the show being enjoyed still.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think, I mean, this episode is a very good example of why people still talk about the show because it's like we were saying, it still holds up. It's still like a good episode of TV. I don't think it ever really feels like cheesy or corny. I don't know.
I think cheesy and corny is not the right words to use. It is like high camp in a sense
Yeah,
almost. I mean,
yeah,
it is it is played for the edges rather than for the internal. We want you to see,
yeah,
now
yeah,
you have 1 second to get on. You have to get on stage and have them understand who you are because you don't have a lot of time.
yeah, yeah,
So in that sense, I don't think of it as think of it as a good TV.
yeah, yeah. No, I think that's accurate. Don, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. I appreciate you doing this. You're a delight. I'm glad to have you included. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me.
I'm Ian Carlos Crawford, and today I am here with.
Hello, I am Charlie Brumley. I played one of the gentlemen on the Hush episode.
Charlie, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, for sure.
I gotta ask, how did you like come across the script? Did you have to audition? Like, how did that go?
Yeah, so basically, my background at the time was I was a classically trained dancer, and they wanted people that could kind of, have this some sort of interesting movement about them for these characters since they were this like
Yeah.
strange sort of being, whatever. And so, and at the time, I was getting work on TV shows as a dancer.
Okay,
And
cool.
so that's kind of how I ended up getting the audition. I went in and it was very short and to the point and like, okay, thank you. And I'm pretty sure I got the call a couple hours later, if I
Cool,
recall.
cool.
It's so long ago.
um, did you know that, like, were you familiar with the show at all before you played one of the
I,
gentlemen?
I'm sorry to say, but to this day, that's the only episode I've ever seen.
If there's one episode you're gonna watch, it's a good episode to pick as the
I
one.
know of the show. I've seen obviously a bunch of clips about it and stuff, but yeah, it just wasn't really my thing at the time when it was out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know a lot of people are very much into it. It's funny. It's like it gets mentioned to me often, and people are like, "Oh, Hush, Buffy." I'm like, "Yeah, it's interesting."
Did you? I mean, if you were a dancer, I'm assuming the answer is probably going to be no. But did you have trouble doing any of the acting without having to make any noise?
Uh, no, it wasn't so much without noise. It was just not being able to see.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we had like these quarter size contacts in that were you we had to be led around the set. We couldn't walk anywhere by ourselves because these things were completely like it was like trying to look through a sheet of wax paper, you know. You can kind of see there's something there, but so that was kind of weird. Not using your eyes as an actor is kind of a bizarre thing.
Had you done any like horror monster work before or no?
No,
Yeah,
no,
cool,
yeah.
cool.
So it was really cool in that respect for me.
Yeah, so it was like something new, but still using what your background was in,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Did you know? I mean, if you weren't familiar with the show, did you like? When did you realize this was like a big episode of the show?
I didn't really know until the Emmys the following year when
Okay.
it won the best episodic, I guess, or if I
I think it was
recall.
like makeup or something, wasn't it? Like the design or something
Yeah,
like that.
maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't remember. Oh my gosh, so long ago.
I mean, I do think those monsters are like, even for the show. Sometimes, David Greenwald, who was a producer, even said, sometimes we just like threw a horn on a mask, and it was like that's
Uh,
the monster
uh,
this week. But they like made sure they put more work
oh,
into those
they put a
monsters.
lot of effort into it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Are you a horror person at all?
I mean, I dig horror. I'm not like a fanatic or anything, but yeah.
Yeah.
I swore after this I would never do prosthetics again, though. Although I have, but it's miserable, man. It's
do
miserable.
you do you remember like was it how long it was sitting in that chair
It
like getting
was,
that makeup
yes,
done?
I remember exactly how long it was. It was 6.5 hours to have it put on, and about an hour and a half to have it taken off. So
Yeah,
that's
I
an 8 hour day just in the chair.
Don Lewis was saying that was the thing he remembered the most too, was like
Uh,
sitting in that chair and how long that took.
and for a week long, like I had to use like cortisone around my
Oh
eyes and
yeah.
under my chin and around my ears. It just destroyed my skin.
Oof.
Yeah, it
Oof.
was brutal. And
Well, and you got
we
oh
had
yeah.
this the teeth, right, was like kind of like those wax teeth, right? So you
Yeah.
had to just hold that in your mouth. But then what do you call it? The actual prosthetic was over top of that. So you're just walking around like this, like you're at the dentist, just drooling on yourself, and it like all the drool just like kind of collects inside the prosthetic. Oh my god! Oh my god! It was not fun.
I mean, yeah, I like once did like a thing on stage where like a vampire to pretend to bite me, and even just like the fake blood, like I could not get it out of my neck for like a week. And I kept having to tell people like, oh no, it's not a bruise. No, it's just there's fake blood. It's not coming out. I don't
Yeah,
know.
honestly, like I've had a few jobs where the makeup is the worst part. It's like I'm getting paid to sit here and have this makeup done. Is how I look at it. The acting part's the fun part. Sitting in the chair and all that. That's not. No,
Everyone has also said that. I mean, I guess this makes sense from what you're saying that like y'all like even on break would still just be fully in makeup and like
there's nothing you could do. Yeah,
yeah.
and we didn't get to eat from the time we had the stuff put on.
Oh
So it's like,
God.
and 8 hours in the chair. That's already what most people consider a full day's work, and we haven't even started the work yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like some long days.
That's like when I worked retail, that's like already one shift of
Yeah, So yeah.
uh, um Jane Espenson mentioned that the green stuff, when y'all's heads explode, she was like, we were finding that for days on people and around set. And like, she said some of it was in her car because she like tracked it in by accident.
I don't think we were on set when that happened.
Oh, really?
I don't remember that at
Okay.
all. Yeah, I don't recall anything about that.
Do
Doesn't mean it
you,
didn't happen or I wasn't
fair.
there or I wasn't there.
Sometimes people will be like, oh, I liked what you said in the last episode of the podcast. And I'm like, oh God, I don't even
Yeah,
remember
what
what
was
I
that
said.
again?
Yeah. And that's like,
Excuse me.
just like a week ago that I recorded it and I already
Right.
forgot the hell I said. Um, did you watch the episode when it aired?
I can't recall exactly, but sometime right around there for sure. Yeah,
Okay, so you didn't like wait a while. You like watched it pretty quickly.
I wanted to see because it was hard to tell on the day like how much I was even going to be able to be recognized
Yeah.
or not. Because
Yeah.
first of all, with the prosthetic, and then there's like four of us, and everything's like dark, and they're like, yeah. So yeah, I was curious to see how it turned out.
What'd you think?
I thought it was pretty good. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I always say this episode, I think of, especially for like a TV show that's kind of serialized, I feel like it stands pretty well on its own as like a mini horror movie.
Yeah, well, I think, and that's probably why I got a little recognition.
Yeah. 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 It's definitely like, I've met a lot of people who are like, I didn't really watch, but I saw that episode. Like a lot of people have seen that episode in particular.
They I don't know if you know this, but they made actual like Ken doll size what do you call this, figures of
Yeah,
us.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I have I have one in a storage box somewhere.
Can you tell which one would be the one you played, or is it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, because there was a significant height difference between us,
Oh,
and
okay.
like also like it was still on your face. So like I don't know if you know Doug Jones, right? He
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like the lead gentleman or whatever. You know, his face is like long and lean, and he's like 6'2" or 6'3" or whatever he
Oh, I didn't
is.
realize he was that tall.
Yeah, and you know, and I'm like 3-4 inches shorter than him, and then there was another guy that was a couple inches shorter than me. So, and all of our smiles were kind of different.
That is the one thing I do notice when I'm like, I mean, I can't tell who is who, but I'm like, okay, the smiles are different on each like
Yeah.
gentleman.
So,
Yeah.
you know, if anyone were to care, they could figure out which one's which. You know.
All right. Were you the short? I feel like I remember the tallest one and the shortest one are the ones I can kind of tell apart. But
I
other than
think,
that,
yeah, I think I was next after Doug, if I
okay,
recall, like in
okay,
terms of height. Yeah.
okay, cool.
It's hard to remember because some of the pictures too that are out that I've seen, it's like you can't tell what the depth of field, like who's standing where, and like so it's kind of hard to tell. But
And I've heard that like a lot of the work y'all did, it was sometimes like they're filming your hand, and like you don't know if it's actually going to be your gentleman that was the hand that's supposed to
yeah,
be coming from. Yeah.
yeah, or like silhouette stuff, and like you know, yeah. I mean, we were the gentlemen, you know, so
Did you
we had full stuff all over our hands too.
did you have to ride on any of the dollies, just like gliding across?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was kind of interesting. I'm like, I'm not saying anything. I can't see. I'm just floating. Do something. Make it interesting.
Like, sure, I'll just move my hands around. We'll see.
do something.
um, was there any like any reception that you remember hearing, like anything you remember hearing about the episode when it came out?
No, I don't really follow like stuff really like that much at all.
Okay.
I always just want to see how I feel like the whole thing went. Just to mostly just to learn from and you know
That's fair.
hopefully take along with me to the next thing. You know.
That's cool. That's cool. You so there's four of y'all. Was it like, because you're all just the gentlemen, right? Was there like a Doug Jones is going to be more the like main one? Was it like, or just kind of like,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Doug's. I mean, I don't know if you followed his career at all, but
I
I
know he's
mean,
like pretty big. Yeah, yeah.
he's you know he's and he had been doing some prosthetic stuff before that. It wasn't like that was his first prosthetic gig.
Okay.
So he was already kind of making himself in that niche, and yeah, man, it's been great for him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
And
he's like
he's you know
currently in
he's
the
like
show.
the sweetest guy too. He's a really nice guy. We had a lot of fun that week in spite of all of that.
I will say that everyone has kind of said the same thing about Doug Jones that you just said. Everyone's been like, "Oh yeah, really nice guy, really
Yeah.
sweet." Were you in the scene when they kill the guy in the dorm room? Were you one of the gentlemen there? I think there's two of them, maybe, or three.
I just remember the one shot I really remember of me with like death involved. I opened the door and I'm like holding the heart in my
Oh, okay,
hand,
cool.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, you know.
I think that's when the Tara Amber Benson, she's like getting chased through the dorm room, and I think like she's like knocking on the door, and y'all answer the
Yeah,
door.
sounds
Yeah,
about right. Yeah.
yeah. For a network TV show, I feel like it's horror light, but I feel like it's like pretty good for especially back then. Like,
And yeah, I was gonna say for the time too, it was it was a little it was pushing.
have you ever done a convention?
No, I've been with my buddy a couple times with him, Jason Momoa.
Oh, cool, cool.
Yeah.
The casual name drop. Oh,
Well, yeah, it's a long story, but anyway, yeah. So I've been a couple times. It's pretty interesting to see.
cool, cool.
But yeah,
Yeah,
I've never had. There's been no demand for Charlie Brumley from his one episode of Hush. You know,
I mean, honestly, I'm surprised like a con hasn't done like a Hush panel or something. Like,
right?
ugh,
Yeah.
like The dudes that played the monsters in the
Let me
episode.
let me hit up Doug.
Yeah, because he's like currently in the what the hell is What We Do in the Shadows, that vampire show.
Oh yeah, you just
And he's
finished Star Trek too, and
oh right, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It seems like he's like the go-to guy for like someone in a like mask.
Yeah, he's definitely done the convention circuit.
Yeah, yeah. Um, did you do you remember talking to anyone, like any of the like folks, any of the actors on the show or anything?
I didn't know who the hell I was standing next to. Who did he like? I was like, Doug, don't leave me. Yeah, I like literally had to be like hold someone's hand to be walked around and like watch your step and this and that. No, it was kind of like I sort of went into this sort of Zen survival thing, just like you gotta just pace yourself on a day like that, man, because it's tough. And when the time comes, you have to, at the end of the day, you got to be professional and
Yeah.
you know, and also pleasant to be around. Nobody wants to be around somebody who's bitching all day. So I
Especially
just,
someone bitching dressed like a monster.
yeah, you kind of creep me out, dude.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So on days like that, I just kind of go into the mode and just, you know, I don't remember much conversation except in the makeup trailer while we were sitting there for 6.5 hours.
Oh, was it all of you together, like getting it all done at the same time?
Yeah, I think there was two of us in one trailer, two of us in
All right.
another. But yeah, I was with Doug, and he's a delight, and we laughed for sure.
Is there anything else this might be a bit, but is there anything else you like remember that you want, like any story you remember that you want to tell?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I was kind of surprised at the end of the day how how much attention it did get, the episode,
Yeah.
and they ended up using a little clip of it in the opening credits for the following season, which was also a delight one day when I went to my mailbox. Um,
All right, because you still get because it's still you, even if
I
it's
got paid for all episodes of the next
nice,
season.
nice.
So that was nice at the time for sure. Yeah, and I find it interesting that people still like when they, people I meet outside of the business, they find out I'm an actor, and then they inevitably look me up, and they're like, "Oh, you were on Buffy." It's like one of the first things that they say. So
I gotta say, I feel like Buffy fans are like, for the most part, like a more chill fandom, but we are like Oh, you were
Die
on
Hard,
Buffy, yeah.
yeah, Die Hard, yeah,
It's like Die Hard but chill. It can be both, surprisingly, but
yeah, yeah.
uh, Charlie, is there anywhere anyone can find you on social or anything?
Yeah, Instagram, Better in the Wind. And coming up in the spring, I'll be on a new show on Apple TV called Chief of War
Okay, cool, cool.
with Jason Momoa. That's why
Oh,
that came up again and whatever. Anyway, yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. So that'll be out. It's cool, cool show.
Apple TV gets like pretty good, like they get like pretty big names for all their shows, I feel like.
He's yeah, Jason's just killing it right now, and they're going all in on this show.
Oh yeah.
So I'm anxious to see how it all comes out.
Is that how you met him, or like you guys were already friends?
We were series regulars on Baywatch together back in 2000. So yeah, I've known him for a long time. Yeah.
Oh my god, Charlie, I was like obsessed with Baywatch when I was a kid.
Yeah. Baywatch Hawaii. It was the
Okay.
last season of the franchise, and I did not look like this.
They didn't let you have the long beard if you were a
Yeah,
lifeguard.
no. Clean shaven, spiky blonde, frosted hair. Oh man, like stoner surfer guy. Yeah, that was a fun character.
Whomst among us did not have the frosted tips at some point.
Yeah, I probably would not have if it wasn't for the show, but yeah, it
Well,
was a look.
well, I appreciate your time and I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, cool, man. Thanks.
I'm Ian Carlos Crawford, and today I am joined by.
Hi, I'm Doug Jones. You might know me from some crazy, wacky movie credits like The Shape of Water, Pan's Labyrinth, Hellboy 1 and 2, Hocus Pocus, Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer. But today, I'm most proud to tell you that I was the leader of the gentlemen in the Hush episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Doug, thank you for your time. Thank you for doing this. You have such an extensive resume. I feel like, this probably was, but what did you think when you first saw this script? Was this something very different for you or just kind of like, another day for you?
Well, I didn't see the script at all first. This was one of those auditions that came through an agent. Now, remember, this is 25 years ago. So I wasn't getting a lot of direct offers back at that time. So I did have to go in and audition for things. And um, my agent called and said, I have a weird one for you. I go, okay, hit me. And she said, well, it's no dialogue, at least verbally, but you're going to be in this entire episode. It's a guest role for, she tried to explain it. And how do you explain these gentlemen who smile all the time and float around and tear people's hearts out while doing it with a gentle face, but that's what she told me. I'm like, oh, it's, I've done weirder things. Okay, good. So then an audition was scheduled, and it was not just oftentimes auditioning for TV guest roles. It's a two-stepper. You go to meet a casting director first, just the two of you, and then they will refer you on to a callback where all of the writers, producers, and that episode director will be there. We skipped the first process. It was a direct to producers kind of a callback sort of situation. And so a little nervous. And I got into the waiting area, and I'm looking around at an array of interesting looking fellas. And maybe they were thinking the same about me, probably. I don't know. And one of them was practicing his smile. He was kind of doing this, looking at the floor, and I was like, whoever that is, I'm out of here. Right. Well, that was Camden Toy. Camden Toy both of us ended up being cast as the two. We were partners that floated around together, and there were two sets of other gentlemen partners, but we were the main focal ones. Well, so going into the audition room then, before I knew we were cast, of course, the episode director was Joss Whedon himself. And I did not know that until I got in the room going, ah! And then, and he also had written this episode. So, when a showrunner is overseeing an entire series, there's a whole writer's room, staff of writers, and each episode might have a lead writer on it. And every episode is also directed by someone different, because while one episode is filming, another one's prepping. And so those directors have to be kept separate usually. So to have the showrunner of this mega hit coming out of his office to write and direct this episode, it's like, oh, I get it. This one's kind of special. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So the audition was simply Joss telling me, okay, so I want you to be as polite and gentlemanly as you possibly can while keeping a huge smile on your face. And I want you to just kind of mime cutting someone's heart out and plopping it into a jar.
And
I'm like, oh, as you do.
Yeah.
So sure enough, that's what I did. And then I drove away after that thinking, well, I have no idea what just happened in there. Well, all right. So it turns out that Joss Whedon fell crazy in love with both me and Camden Toy, and went directly got messages directly to the Creature Effects makeup shop that was designing the gentleman's prosthetic makeup look, because we were all these bald, wrinkly fellows, right? And wanted them to redesign Camden's and my faces, because all of the gentlemen, all six of us, were going to have these humongous smiles that were plastered on the outside of our prosthetics. So about the outside of our actual real mouth. So we would have been going through the day like this, in that original design. He loved Camden's smile and mine so much, that we gave him the heebie-jeebies, that he wanted them to reconfigure our prosthetic mask to be glued on around our real mouths so that we can get our real smile in there. And instead of the teeth that were plastered on the outside, that changed into metallic looking dentures. But just for the two of us.
Oh.
Now the other four that you see do have that big plastered on outside the mouth look still on them. But Camden and I both felt very complimented that we creeped out Joss Whedon enough that he wanted to do a redo, and that cost money, and wow, good for us, right?
I that is flattering, yes. And Doug, you just put like three pieces into place of this, which I appreciate because I interviewed Camden last year, actually, before he passed, and
Yeah,
so I'm using some of that like archive footage, and he had said he got the part because of his smile,
right.
and the two other gentlemen I interviewed, gentleman number 3 and 4, they were like, "But we didn't wear teeth," and I was like, "Well, he did say he got it because that makes more sense."
That's why. That's exactly why. Right.
Were
Yeah.
you familiar with Buffy at all before you auditioned, before you went in, or no?
Well, I was familiar. I hadn't watched a whole lot of it because we actors don't often watch everything that's out there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's a time issue. But Nicholas Brendan, my was a family friend of mine from way back. I knew him
Oh,
when he was a teenager.
oh
He washed
wow,
my car. He washed my car for me once. Yeah, before he was a famous actor.
that's
So I
funny.
knew he was on this new show, and I've caught glimpses of it in an episode here and there. I hadn't followed the whole thing though, and I thought, oh gosh, he's doing great. I'm real proud of him. So it's more about him than anything else. And so when I booked this role, I was like, the first thing I did on my first day was go on his trailer and said, "Guess who's here?"
So the other gentlemen told me they had backgrounds in dancing and mime work. Did
Right.
you have background in any of that? Yeah.
Mime, yes.
Okay.
In fact, Camden Toy and I were conferring about each other's mime backgrounds, and then our clowning and physical tomfoolery, let's call it. Uh, yeah, I know. As far as like, I've never been classically trained as a dancer, but I was in a folk dance troupe in college, and I'm really good in the living room mirror. Okay,
Whomst among us is not Doug.
right. Okay, that's right. That's right.
Well, was there anything? I mean, I guess because it was so not that different for you to be like super silent, was there anything that was like a challenge to you or no? Because you're a pro.
Oh,
The answer of
but
no is okay.
well, no. Honestly, the biggest challenge was the floating part.
Oh yeah.
Because the both Camden and I being mimes, and we both had a strong belief that dialogue does not all have to be verbal. So if you don't have written lines, you still have a ton of dialogue. All of our visual dialogue. And in fact, when they took the voice, I am the one who stole the voices out of Sunnyvale and put them into a box. That was my doing. So without anyone having a voice, we
I'm
all
very
had
proud
to
of
have
you.
a lot of dialogue that was visual for that episode. And as I recall, a little side note, by the way, if I remember correctly, the network, which at the time was
WB.
the WB, that sound right?
Yeah.
Was kind of like hesitant to like, oh, Joss, you can't take dialogue out of a TV episode because people are going to go like this with their remote and like, I'm getting bored. Like if we lose one of the senses, they're gonna flee. And he stuck to his guns, and I'm glad he did because the opposite effect happened when you took the voices away. Everybody kind of leaned in and paid more attention, right? Because that visual dialogue was everything. That's all we had.
I mean, I feel like this show, in a lesser show, it might have fallen flat, right? Like there is in a world where like if the writing wasn't so strong and the actors weren't so strong, it
Right.
might not have worked, right?
I would agree. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because those characters on Buffy were so well defined by that point, and the humor and their comedic timing still worked without verbal
Yeah.
dialogue. But back to the challenge though. We floated around about 6 inches to a foot off the ground, and we had our little footmen that were like that ran around at our sides, and they would hold down our victims before we cut their hearts out gently.
Yes.
But so the floating bits, yeah. So when you saw a full wide shot of our entire bodies floating, we couldn't, our feet could not touch the ground. Right. So to accomplish that, they put us in hip harnesses with wires that went up past our shoulders and onto a T-bar that would string along a cable in the sky or on the ceiling of wherever it was. The biggest setup for that probably was at the town square where the clock tower was. Um, Big wide shot of six of us floating down the streets. They had all these cables. It was like quite a setup. And then we went peeling off in different directions. So they had, it was a lot. It was a lot.
It looks
So
beautiful though. It really
it was
does.
beautiful. Exactly. And it was so, again, this that added to the creepiness of all of it. The silence, the smiling while you're doing dastardly things, and floating, like your feet never moving as you're going about town.
Yeah.
Ah! So I'm a skinny boy, so I've got these bony hips. And when you have a stunt person strapping you into a hip harness that is like it needs to be tight, or it's going, for safety's sake, my bones were going. So I was in pain the entire time I was hanging up there. The other challenge was then when you saw us like this shot right now from the nipples up, uh, you that we were on a platform with wheels under it, and some poor guy on the floor was going like and wheeling us in. So that was a balancing act, like because the start and the stop of that motion, we had to be. It's like surfing, like I'm ready for the
Mm.
wave, and right. So trying to make that look fluid, a perfect example that was a tough one. I remember it was particularly complicated to get the two of us, Camden and me, into that boy's dorm room. We're going down the hallway, and he's suggesting doors, and I'm like, no, not that one. What about this one? No, not that one. And finally, this one, right? Uh, and then the kid answers the door, and he sees these two, that iconic shot of the two of us, our heads just kind of going, and he's like, no. And the footman, strap him down to the bed, and tear open his pajamas, and then so we had to come into the room and go to either side of the bed, floaty, floaty, float on
Oof.
these wheeled platforms. And these poor people on the floor, blessed the crew's hearts. They did great. So, so I remember coming through the door and then having to kind of give a turn at the end to face the bed and then come to a stop without going, you're right. That was a multi-take challenge, that one was. But then what followed was probably the most gorgeous moment ever between Camden and me was when we're looking at our patient, and we're smiling at each other, and he pulls open the doctor bag and he takes out the knife, and I'm like, "Oh, for me?" And he's like, "Yes, for you." All this nonverbal. It was just so like they're being so nice about it. Right? And this kid is just like terrorized for his poor little life. And the last thing before a commercial break was my close up of me going into the camera. Oh my gosh. Now I rarely creep myself out when I watch things back. Because once you've been through the process, it's like, oh,
Yeah, yeah.
right. It's just kind of wears off the creep factor. Watching that episode gave me the heebie-jeebies every time we were on camera. It's like, oh gosh, I am disgusting. That and this guy from Pan's Labyrinth are the two times that I've actually felt really grossed out by my own self.
That's that was gonna be one of the questions I asked you, but I assumed your answer would be nah, it didn't bother me.
No, it did. Totally did.
Because I had the actor who plays that kid that you kill.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, and he said he had a really good memory of you two, like you in full costume, just sitting talking, waiting to fill.
He was a sweetheart of a kid. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, we found out we're from the same area in New Jersey. Weird, right?
I say kid. He's probably what, 80 now? I mean, we're all ancient now. It's 25 years ago.
Did you have any inkling that it was that long ago?
No, that was a surprise when I saw that guy. Everyone was announcing it when it aired. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is the anniversary. I'm like, it can't be. In 1999. Yeah, that's a quick math, but yep, it was 25. But when you get to my age, I'm in my mid 60s now. I Everything's going faster. Everything is going faster, right? Something I thought happened 3 weeks ago was actually 3 years ago. I'm like, no, well, now stop that.
I will say, now that I'm in my 40s, I do feel that often when I'm like, wait, that was like 2 years ago. Oh no, it was 12. Like a weird reference is Madonna's Confessions on the Dance Floor turned 20, and I was like, but that's a new Madonna album, isn't it?
Thank
But
you,
no, it
thank
is
you. But the
not.
kids today are calling them oldies. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
No,
that, like I was like, um
I feel your pain, baby.
did was there was there any like so some of the actors have said they did have trouble not speaking. Some of the actors have been like, no, that was easy. Do you remember anyone like that being an issue? James Marster said he had a lot of trouble with that. There was a lot of takes of him going, fuck, fuck.
I was not aware of that. No, no. In fact, but I do remember like leading up to the finale of that episode, when Buffy got her voice back. Um, it seemed like she felt liberated to give that guttural scream out. Yeah.
And I did read, you are the only person I'm interviewing who would have been there. That she did try to do that scream a couple times and they ended up dubbing it, but Sarah did try to do the scream.
I remember it being like, but of course, when that was happening, I also had to react before my head exploded. Oh, do you know what the head explosion was? They took macaroni and cheese and put green dye in it. That's what came popping out of our heads. Yeah,
Huh.
and
That
they had fake heads created too that could explode on camera. So it was a quick cut back and forth to edit that together.
Jay, were you there when they blew up the heads, or was that like
I believe that's why I remember the green the green macaroni and cheese.
a couple of them have said that green stuff they were finding everywhere for like weeks.
I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So you did watch the episode when it aired.
Hmm.
Were you aware that it was like going to become the episode where you're like, oh, this one hits?
Well, again, not having seen every episode along the way, I didn't know
If
what
this
there
was
was to
par for the
compare to
course,
as
yeah.
much as the ardent fan would know. So
But you've done Comic-Con. You did Comic-Cons around that time too, right?
no, I didn't. I actually no, not 1999. I started doing conventions more along like 2005-ish, 6-ish.
Okay.
Yeah, so I wasn't really quite. I'd worked a lot by then, but I hadn't taken it to the public so much on my free time.
Because I do
But
remember being excited that like, oh, the gentleman, Silver Surfer, Hocus Pocus, like that's all the same. Like when I like realized it was all the same person, I was like very
yeah,
excited.
yeah. Now again, as we look back, retrospect is like, oh, we can gather up all these details from all these years, and but I didn't have the luxury back then
Yeah,
to
yeah.
know. And when you guest star on a TV show, they come, they go. You never know if someone might recognize you the next day and be like, "Oh, weren't you on that show last night?" And after that, it's off to the abyss unless it's a real hit show that goes rerun, 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 and you never know when that show's going to be.
Right, yeah.
So now, 25 years later, Buffy is every bit as popular today as it was then, and that this is baffling. I did not see this coming. And I did not see also that being a guest star on one episode would turn into 6-inch figures, 12-inch dolls, Funko Pop figures. A new one just came out recently for another version of the gentleman just came out in Funko Pop. And that when people Buffy fans I meet them at conventions, this is when and that's why I love conventions is because I can have one-on-ones with people and I hear what I put out there and how they're reacting to it, what it meant to them. And when the Buffy fan steps up to the table, they will tell me time after time their two favorite episodes out of the entire series was Hush and the musical episode, Once More with Feeling.
Yep.
That is a consistent favorite too that I've heard over the years. So again, 25 years later, did not expect to keep hearing about this. It's fantastic.
I am also one of those fans. Those are my two
Yeah, okay,
favorite
thank you.
episodes.
Bless
Yep.
you.
Yep. I always say Hush is my favorite episode of my favorite show, but also my favorite episode of TV. I think Hush stands alone. It could be its own movie. Like,
Well, I will say Camden Toy and I were both quite full of ourselves when the TV Guide reviewer put out. I think it was just before the episode aired. There was a review of what you can expect in this week's Buffy episode, and the journalist said these the gentlemen are the scariest villains this show has ever had, perhaps any show on television. I
nice,
was like,
nice.
again, we were quite taken with ourselves.
I mean, you should be. I would be too. I'd be like, shit, I'm good.
Yeah, okay, I can retire now, I guess, whatever, yeah.
But I was going to ask you if Buffy fans still come up to you because you have such a large like body of work. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
I mean, you were lead in the Fantastic Four movie. You were Hocus. Like, I feel like you are part of so many fandoms that have such strong cult followings. I was wondering if
Yeah, there's
Buffy
a
still
lot.
makes a blip for you.
Oh, absolutely. There's a
Yeah,
lot of overlap between those genres that I've been, when you do horror, comic book, sci-fi, science fiction, there's a lot of fans that overlap in all those. Um,
that's me. I
and
overlap.
and you're an overlapper. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you. Uh, so no, honestly, better as I have a table full of 8x10s of all the characters I played over 38 years. My gentleman pictures still sell to this day. I think that the top sellers might be the Hellboy movies, as Abe Sapien, Pan's Labyrinth, The Faun and the Pale Man, The Shape of Water, Amphibian Man, Star Trek Discovery, of course. When you've been a recent, Star Trek
I would
Legacy show,
imagine.
so Saruf in that show, and What We Do in the Shadows, The Baron is quite a hit now too. But the fact that the gentleman is a contender with those characters is phenomenal. One episode 25 years ago, and it still holds that much memory for people. Yeah.
I was gonna say that must like feel really good because it
Mm.
really is like I don't know a lot of episodes of TV that stay like 25 people are still right. Like I can't think
Right.
of another episode of TV where I'm like, oh yeah, that's the episode. But like this one,
Right. Yeah, I would agree. And I didn't see it coming either. So, but God bless all of those Buffy fans out there. I love you, love you, love you for that.
um, and I gotta ask you, Willow and Tara in this episode, that's the first episode where they meet. You get to chase Amber Benson. She gets their horror movie chase scene and survives.
She
Um,
was freaked out by us too, by the way, in real life. She was
she
like,
did tell me that. She did
yeah,
say
yeah,
that,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. She was so sweet though, bless her heart.
I feel like Amber basically is the character. She's like so sweet, so nice, so chill. Like,
Shy and yeah, genuine. I loved her dearly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. When did you know that like that was a big part of television? Because I feel like still 25 years later, they are a very good like queer representation.
Yeah, I didn't at the time. I didn't see it. I didn't know
Oh,
what that
okay.
was, where that was headed. I didn't know. I didn't know. I just knew that. Yet the script I had, of course, had them joining forces to, gosh, weren't they kind of form their own little coven? I
Yeah,
guess if
yeah.
that was it, right. And I thought, oh, that's sweet. Like a sisterhood. I felt a sisterhood growing, but I
They're
didn't know
gal
where it was going to go
pals.
from there. Yeah, yeah, gal pal.
Don't
Yeah.
worry. A couple people were like, "Wait a minute, what? They're gay?"
Yeah, I know, I know. It was subtle on TV back then. I know. Yeah.
Oh, my mom, again, my mom got me into the show, and my mom, when I was like, Mom, you know that they're a couple, right? She was like, No, they're best friends. And I was like, No.
Yeah. And we use air quotes.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But to my mom, it was, well, they haven't kissed, so they're not dating. But I was
I
like, oh,
know.
they
I
just
know.
can't do
Yeah.
that.
I know.
Yeah. And then she, was crying when Tara died eventually. Um,
No. Oh, see, we got attached, didn't we?
we did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to ask real quick before I let you go. I have to tell you, the Baron is one of my favorite vampires ever. And normally, no vampires top Buffy vampires for me. But
Yeah.
your first episode of What We Do in the Shadows is still my favorite episode of the series.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you for that. Yeah. Yeah. I was never supposed to go past that first episode.
Oh, really?
I know. So the fact that I was in their final season six is remarkable that I lasted that long. The Baron was supposed to, in the very pilot first episode of what we do in the shadows. I was up in the attic in my coffin, and they were talking about me like, "Oh, the Baron is here. The Baron is here. Oh no, what are we gonna do?" Because I'm like the big daddy of that particular family of vampires, and I had come in from Eastern Europe to check on them. And it was set up. That was the setup of the show. It was like I sent them here to North America to conquer the New World, and here I am coming out of my coffin, stark naked, with no genitalia. That was a 6 hour makeup job, uh, and to check on them and ask them how is everything going in the New World. And they were like, "Well, we are in Staten Island. Oh, is Staten Island the center of the New World?" It's like, yeah. So that was hilarious setup. And then I was going to go, I would say, I'm still tired. I need to slumber. So I would go back into my coffin, and they were going to find a way to send it down the river so they wouldn't deal with me again. And that was going
Oh,
to be the end
huh.
of it. Well, while we were filming the pilot episode, Jermaine Clement, one of the showrunners, said, "Doug, we're having far too much fun with you. Would it be okay if I keep you around?" I'm like, yes. So Yeah. So then they brought me back for the Baron's Night Out episode
That one is
six
my
of season
favorite.
one.
Yes, that one is my favorite. I
That's
think
the one.
it's so good.
Right. I awakened finally from my long slumber, and I'm now, and they're like, "Yeah, we still haven't done anything," and I'm like, I want the night on the town. That's all I was after. Let's go have fun." And that might have been the funniest half hour of television that I've ever been a part of.
Like
So
I
at the
still laugh so hard I cry when I watch it.
Thank you. The pizza is everything. Um, so when so that at the end of that episode, the door opens up with Guillermo accidentally opening the front door, and the sun burns me, and I'm like, that was going to be the end of the Baron. You'd never see me
Ew.
again. Well, again, Jermaine Clement said, "Doug, okay, this is going far too well. If I find a way to magically bring you back to life, can I?" I'm like, yes. So it took all the way till season three then, but but they brought me back, dug me up out of the backyard. I never really died all the way. I was crispy and broken in half, and like, oh my gosh, it never could go too far on that show. The writers went as far as they could and beyond, and it was just started absurd and it stayed absurd, and it was
Yes.
perfectly fine that way.
Yes. It's pretty cool that you're in two very iconic vampire TV shows.
Yeah.
Do you know if they ever like I was always like, "Oh, please bring in someone from Buffy." That's what I was always hoping for.
Uh,
Do you know if that was ever like a thought?
Yeah, no, you know what? They'd had cameos all throughout the series on What We Do in the Shadows of different vampire. In
Yeah.
fact, in one of our final episodes, it was episode 9 of the last season, I had a little tete-a-tete back and forth with Alexander Skarsgård, right, from True Blood. It was a lovely surprise for the audience. It was a really, really beautiful little Easter egg, and he was so easy to play with. It was so great. Yeah, so it would have been great yeah, that would have been delicious to have like an iconic Buffy come back
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know, but the best they got was a gentleman now as the leader of the
I
battle.
mean, they had Pee Wee Herman in season one, and he was in the Buffy movie. So,
Oh, there. Okay, boom. There you go. There you go.
Doug, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Where can everyone find you online?
Well, I'm on all the social medias as actor Doug Jones. So, and the most recent addition was Blue Sky, I believe. So
Yeah.
I'm still on the X. I'm still on the Facebook and the Instagram and the a LinkedIn, Snapchat, Tumblr, actor Doug Jones on all of them. Yeah. Um, and also, speaking of vampires, there's a very confusing thing happening now out there, which is Nosferatu. There's the big one that is coming to theaters with Bill Skarsgård in the title character, directed by Robert Eggers, the brilliant filmmaker. That's happening in theaters December 25th. Also out at the same time now, just 2 months ago, was the release of Nosferatu: A Symphony of Horror, which stars Doug Jones as the title character of Count Orlok.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
Nosferatu.
I did not know. I had
Yeah,
just heard about that. And I didn't realize you were in
it's
that. So I
been
gotta.
very confusing because, with that title, oh, I saw an ad for that. Well, you might have seen an ad for the other one. I don't know, this one, that one, that one. So our version of Nosferatu, that it is already out on Amazon Prime
Okay.
and Apple TV. So if you have those, you can see our version of Nosferatu, A Symphony of Horror, right now. And ours very different from Robert Eggers. I went to the premiere of their Nosferatu, and it's absolutely a masterpiece of art. It's
Nice.
beautiful
I do really want
and
to see it.
gory and sexy and all the things that you would hope for it to be. And Bill Skarsgård, amazing. He surprised me with all kinds of things I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
Our version was actually what you would expect because we took the silent film and went scene for scene the same story as the silent film.
Oh, cool.
So we were filmed in black and white on a green screen set with dialogue and sound though to update it to so you could hear the story that you were seeing in the silent film, and with new actors, dialogue, sounds, musical score, and then we were put together digitally with the backdrops from the original film. So it
Oh,
has
that's
an
cool.
ethereal kind of surreal kind of look to it because of that combination of old and new.
Hmm.
So completely different films, but with the same base folklore behind it.
That's good. Was that one of those things where it was like, shit, there's two of them at the same time, or?
Well, yeah. Well, for us it was because I knew theirs was going to blast. They would have the budget for marketing. Ours was done on an independent budget, and it was filmed years ago. It should have
Oh
been
yeah.
out long before now. And when Robert Eggers announced he wanted to make a Nosferatu, I got in touch with our producers, say, can you, get ours out there? So anyway, so here so now we released 2 months before theirs, just to offer some confusion up there.
We like that. Thank you again. I appreciate your time.